welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shad. Nice to be here.
So on HBO, on the HBO Canada comedy Call Me Fitz, you play a shady character, and now you're literally playing a guy named Matt Shade. Tell me about this Shade guy.
Well, Matt is a guy who sort of bounced around the lower levels of professional hockey for his career, and as we drop in on the first episode of the show, he's working as a scout, as a talent scout, for hockey players, and he's found a kid that he thinks has got a shot, and he's trying to trying to climb his way up the ladder of the scouting profession. Something happens with that kid at a camp that he has him at, and he believes that something is, nefarious acts are at play, and someone has done something to this kid that's caused him to have an episode on the ice. So Shade teams up with this private investigator, Angie Everett, to investigate what he thinks has happened. And throughout the course of that first episode, Shade and Angie solve this crime. And because of that, Shade discovers some things about hockey now that he doesn't like, and it leaves a bad taste in his mouth, and he doesn't want to be involved. If that's what the game of hockey looks like now, he doesn't want to be involved in it anymore. So he looks around, and the experience of working with Angie and solving this crime was something that he was pretty good at, he figures, and something that he actually kind of enjoyed. So he figures that he would like to investigate that some more, no pun intended, and so he calls up Angie again and asks her if she would like to work with him on another case, and so they start investigating cases together. And as the season moves forward, they don't work together very well initially because they are very different characters and they come at things from very different perspectives. But as they continue to evolve and work together, they start to work together pretty well by the end of the season.
So your character, Matt Shade, he takes a leap. He makes this unlikely transition from from the hockey world to private investigating. You're a hockey fan yourself. What was it like to delve into that darker side of the sport, young players and steroid abuse?
Well, it's all you have to do is read the paper these days to read about all of the rampant PED abuse that's going on in all facets of every sport. It's kind of amateur and professional sports' dirty little secret that everybody knows about. So we didn't have to scratch the underbelly very hard to figure out to know what's really going on.
Were you involved in creating that backstory as a hockey fan for your character?
No. The series is based on a series of books written by a sports writer here in Toronto, a guy named Gord Joyce. The series of books comprise of 3 books right now, and they're known as the Brad Shade Mysteries. We had to change his name in the television series to Matt Shade for reasons unbeknownst to me, but in those books are about a character named Brad Shade, who is an ex-hockey player who's now a private detective. In the books, the character of Angie Everett doesn't exist. We added that character for the television series because we felt like we needed somebody for Matt to work with and be able to talk to, and we wanted to give him a sounding board. In literature, it's easy to have a character that
is solitary.
That is solitary because you can read his thoughts on the page, but we wanted to give him someone to interact with, and we felt like a strong female character was an interesting choice for us to have on the show.
And the hockey story fan the fan hockey backstory that just fit for you naturally.
Yeah, it did. You know, being a huge hockey fan myself, and you know, being a guy who play, you know, like most other young Canadian men, you know, a guy who played hockey up to a certain level. You know, it was certainly a backstory that I could relate to, and one that I thought was worth exploring.
So Private Eyes has a lighter comic tone than a lot of other crime series. Why did that approach appeal to you?
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. You know, so many crime shows on TV today are very dark in tone, and also we wanted this show to be much lighter and much more of a blue sky show, and have a much lighter comedic touch. Also, you know, I wanted to re-explore the private investigator genre, which is a genre that I grew up with. You know, I grew up on a steady diet of Rockford Files and Magnum PI and Remington Steele and you know, Heart to Heart. You know, I grew up moonlighting. You know, it was just a constant stream of detective shows in the 70s and 80s that I grew up on. And that genre has sort of disappeared from television, and I thought that this show was a great opportunity to bring that genre back and start to reinvestigate it, no pun intended, and have some fun with it, you know, and I think that we've been pretty successful creating a really slick, really sexy, really fun blue sky show that really has so many elements to it that can really have a really broad appeal for people.
I caught a nice Magnum PI reference in the show too, which
Yeah.
I always appreciate. A lot of the comedy comes from the fact that Matt is adjusting a bit to having a woman boss.
Yeah.
Is Matt a bit of a dinosaur?
Well, he doesn't think so, but I'm sure that the two very strong women in his life think so. You know, he's a guy who's trying to make himself better. You know, like I think a lot of us, he's trying to be better. You know, he's sort of caught between these two very strong women, Angie, his boss, and Jules, his daughter. You know, he has a 14-year-old daughter. He's a single parent. And he has a 14-year-old daughter who has she's developmentally challenged. She has a macular degeneration, which makes it difficult for her to see. She's almost completely blind. So. So it's you know, he's a guy who has a lot of challenges in his life, and yet he's still fighting very hard to always be better. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about the character, is that he's always he never lets anything ever really get him down. He's always fighting through obstacles and always just trying to be better.
Family you brought up, and I want to talk about that a bit later. But as I mentioned in the intro, Toronto is a big part of this show. Why was it important for you to bring that local flavor to this?
Well, you know, so many shows, and I've worked on so many shows and directed so many shows here in Toronto that try to hide the fact that you're shooting in Toronto. You know, we're shooting in quote unquote Chicago, but we're actually shooting in Toronto. We're shooting in New York, but we're shooting in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, and we thought that this show was a great opportunity to shoot Toronto for Toronto, and not be afraid to see the CN Tower, and not be afraid to celebrate all of the things that Toronto has to offer. You know, Toronto is a remarkable, exciting, multicultural city. That has so much to offer, and so why not celebrate that? You know, Toronto is an exciting international destination for people from all around the world, and I think that I think that it's important for us as Canadians to recognize that and to celebrate that, and so we decided to do that on this show.
You grew up on the West Coast. Were you always a Toronto fan?
I've always been a Toronto fan myself. Yeah, absolutely. I think that whole, the whole thing of people from cities disliking other cities and people from other cities, for me personally, I think that's a generational thing. Like, I feel like that's from a different time. I hear my parents saying stuff like that about, oh, you're going to Toronto. Sorry about that. Like, what is there not to love? If you're from Toronto, what is there not to love about Vancouver? When you go out there, beautiful scenery and awesome food and, great people, and you go out there to ski and, like, why would you not like that? And why would you not enjoy that? And people from Vancouver, when they come here to Toronto, like, there's awesome food and you go out to the lake country and, like, why would you not enjoy that? Like,
you don't have to pick a team.
You don't have to pick. Exactly. Yeah. So why would you? I just don't. And I feel like, my generation and the generations behind mine, I don't feel like people do pick a team. They just enjoy these places and go and hang out with the people and have a good time. And I don't think that anyone's drawing any lines in the sand because why would you? We live in this. Canada is an amazing, diverse, multicultural, exciting country, and why would you draw lines in the sand within our borders? It just doesn't make sense.
It's interesting how that mentality is beginning to change, isn't it?
Yeah.
The kind of global embrace and like national embrace. Yeah. I do feel like later generations, our generation and going forward, they just don't see those divisions quite as clearly.
And I think that that's important because, Canada is a vast country and there's hardly any people here. And if the people here in this country can't be united as one and just have a huge swell of national pride, then how is the rest of the world going to view us? Like if we're not united as one people, then how does the rest of the world view us as one people? Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. There's an interesting thing going on within Toronto in the show too, because you have kind of Toronto, the old school hockey town, and also Toronto, the modern multicultural city.
Yeah.
Did that interest you, that backdrop as well, as far as exploring that in the show?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I mean, because Toronto, Toronto has so many different sides to it. That we really wanted to delve into those things, and we do on the show. We really work very hard to go and find new interesting things in Toronto and go and try to show them off, and that's been one of the really fun things about the show.
Do you feel any kind of responsibility or duty to tell Canadian stories at this point?
Well, Canadian stories are, Canadian stories are everyone's stories. I mean, they're universal stories. I think that Canada has become, and Canada always was. Once we stopped trapping beavers and selling their pelts to the Europeans, I think that the Canadian story is very much a universal story. Once we all started living in big urban cities. The things that happen in big urban cities are the things that happen in big urban cities everywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have problems with our family, and we have traffic, and we have murders, and we have, it doesn't matter whether you're here, you're in New York, you're in London, you're in Paris. The universal experience is the universal experience, and we all have the same fights and the same insecurities and the same problems with our neighbors and the same worries about the environment and the same worries about our children. Like we're all going through the same things all the time, and that's part of what binds us together as humans on the planet, is that we have these universal experiences that we can all share.
And you can situate those in Canada or elsewhere, and it's all the same.
Yeah. It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. And I think that that's one of the things that unites us all. There aren't that many things that make us different anymore.
Jason, your character on Private Eyes is a devoted father, as we were talking about, to a teenage daughter. You also play a dad in another series, Raising Expectations, with Molly Ringwald, that's debuted this month. What's it been like completing that transition from teen heartthrob back in the day to TV dad now? Do you ever reflect on that? You've arrived in a totally different kind of role.
Yeah. I guess I have, and I hadn't really reflected on it until this very moment. But you're absolutely right. I have the circle is complete. Yeah.
Not complete, but it's a new place.
Until I'm playing a grandfather, I guess that's when it'll really be complete. Well, it's I mean, I think that where my career is at is sort of always been reflected in where I'm at in my personal life, and I'm a father myself in real life, and so it only stands to reason that I have started to play fathers in my career now, it seems that I'm now finally equipped to play fathers now because I'm a father, so I understand it now. Whereas
tell me about that. Tell me about that equipping. Like, what does the real life experience of fatherhood bring to a role like this?
Well, you're the thing. See, there are things that until you have children, you just don't understand that your children teach you more than in the early years. Your children teach you more than you teach them. It's remarkable. It's remarkable the amount of information that they come hardwired with, that and they come hardwired with so much personality and like like you hear when I was younger, I used to hear parents say, oh man, my daughter and my son, they came out and they were the person that they are today, and you go, really? Like, come on, it's a baby, all they want to do is eat and poop, and like, come on, really? Until you have a kid.
Wow.
And then you realize, oh my God, it's true. And if you have multiple children with the same two partners, they all come out totally different. And you can't, I'm still staggered by the fact that my wife and I have two children that came from the same factory that came with totally different options. Like they are night and day different. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why. Exact same DNA. My wife, like it's
amazing. I can see the sense of wonder that still brings you.
It's unbelievable. I can't figure it out. It's like this whole thing it fills me with wonder every day. And my kids just like I can shape them a little bit, and they ask me things, and I do my best to point them in the right direction in the world, and give them the tools that they need to be the best people they can be. But they came to me with so much already. I feel incredibly blessed to have been given these two souls to just shepherd through life. But they are, the whole process was and continues to be just the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. It's really I can't. It's really shocking to me. It's been amazing.
You're still stunned by it. I can
still.
see it in your face.
Still, and they're 9 and 7 years old now, and I'm still every day. I've just scratched my head. It's an amazing experience.
So that's the most fulfilling thing in your life at this point. How has that affected your approach to your career, having these lives in your care?
Well, I have, I have these two. I have two more people that are reliant on me now for everything. So I seem to work even harder than I did before, because I'm very conscious of that fact, and that I need to take care of those little people. So I work even harder.
I was curious about that, because it could go one of two ways. You could say, wow, this is so fulfilling, I'm just going to put my energy over here with these kids. Or it can drive you to work even harder. Yeah. And this has driven you to work even harder in your career.
Yeah. And it's it's difficult for me, because I have to balance the two, because I don't want to work too hard, so I miss huge chunks of their life, because I don't want to do that either. So for me, it's difficult to balance the two, because I want to work harder and harder and harder for them, but at a certain point in time, I have to stop working so I can spend time with them, because that's equally as important.
Okay, so in Matt Shade, we've got a character who is famous in early life, and then he finds himself at a career crossroads. As you said, he's trying to do the right thing.
Yep.
How much of your own career informs, your performance of that? A guy who, has that early fame, and then he's at a bit of a crossroads, and he's trying to do the right thing.
Well, obviously I experienced something like that myself, and it's, coming to the end of a show like Beverly Hills 90210, it was a strange experience, because that was a fast moving train, and to all of a sudden step off of that train was a little bit disorienting, because you get so used to being on that train and the speed at which that train is moving. But for me, I didn't go through the questioning of myself that I think Shade it goes through on the show. I didn't have to figure out what I was going to do. I knew what I was going to do. I'm still doing the same thing I've always done. I just had to find a new place to do it. And I went to London and did theater in London for 6 months, which was really fun for me.
Yeah.
It's where I met my wife. So it was really fun for me.
What led you to do that 6-month trip?
I was
It's not the pivot most people would expect after an experience like Beverly Hills 90210.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was, it was about getting back to what it was that I loved about acting in the first place. We were creating so much content on Beverly Hills 90210 that working on that show, it started to feel like a factory at a certain point in time, and I wanted to go and get reinvigorated by the process of being an actor and what it was to be an actor, and I wanted to get back in touch with what it was that we do as actors, and get back in and fall back in love with being an actor. And so I had an opportunity to go to the West End in London and do a play called Sideman by Warren Leight with Edie Falco. And so I went and I took that opportunity, and I think we did 187 performances back in 2000, and it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very, very glad I did it. It was because it kept me engaged in my craft.
Well, watching this show, it made me wonder, like, did you have that Matt Shade kind of pivotal moment where, you do something that helps you move forward in your life and career?
That was
like
it. That was one of those moments. That was definitely one of those moments, and I think, and there was a few years ago when I came back here to Toronto, and I did Race. I did the David Mamet play at Can Stage, and and once again to get back in touch with what we do with stagecraft and relearn some of the things and that we take a lot of shortcuts in film and television, and it's good to get back in touch with what we do as actors, and and to have those opportunities every few years to sort of get back on the planks and sort of feel the energy of the theater is really important.
That sounds like a bit of a secret revealed right there to having kind of a long and prolific career as you've had so far, to taking those breaks and reconnecting.
Take a little break and reconnect with what it is that we do. I mean, it's been important for me. I can't speak for everybody else. You can only speak for yourself. But it's worked for me, and I've just been fortunate that those opportunities have come along and kind of come along at the right time.
Just a couple more questions left for you here. Now, last year there was actually a Lifetime Network broadcast of the unauthorized Beverly Hills 90210 biopic. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Steered clear of that.
No, I did not. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. One last question.
I heard it was terrible, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be a strange experience to watch an actor play you.
Yeah.
Too.
Maybe I should have been live tweeting during that, just to make it really meta, right?
One last question, Jason. You've been a big booster of Canadian music over the years, most notably your work with the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you heard the news recently of Gord Downie and his cancer diagnosis?
Really tragic. That's really sad. I really, it's sad. It's sad. I've had the good fortune to meet Gord a couple of times over the years, and he's a really kind gentleman, and I think it's really brave of him to go out on the road, and also really kind of him to go out, him and his bandmates to go out and share their music with their fans one more time. And I'm sure that this summer is going to be a really memorable summer for him and his family. I'm sure they're going to be with him every step of the way, and I'm sure they're going to have a wonderful time. It's what he loves to do, and if I'm sure if any of us were in that situation, what you want to be doing is what you love to do, and he loves making music and bringing joy to his fans, and that's exactly what he's going to be doing.
Again, connecting with what you love.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get your thoughts on that before we wrapped up. Thanks, Jason.
All right.